Hey, this is Dan from Ready Edge Go. Today we're going to be talking about how to effectively research a college. You're about to apply to whichever college you're going to apply for, and if you're going to spend about 4, maybe 5 years of your life at this place, you better know what you're getting yourself into. So what I'm going to teach you today is the approach I teach all of my students. It takes about anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how deep you want to go into your research for any particular college. So today we're going to go ahead and use a pretty popular business college for a lot of students, which is NYU as an example. But again, the process here and the steps I take can be replicated for any college on your list. So let's go ahead and start from scratch. Go and open up your web browser, and the first thing is you want to open up one tab out of 3. I'm going to be opening up 3 different tabs to show you 3 different parts of the college. The first tab I highly recommend opening up is literally go to Google and just search up U.S. News Best Colleges and then followed by the college name. So in this case, I'm looking up NYU, so I'm just going to go ahead and click that. And you basically just want to open up the first, typically the first search result, but you want to get to the U.S. News page that covers the university. Now, this is designed to give you a big picture of what this school is about, where it's located, how large it is, and if you want to know the retail price, how much it costs. But it's really to help you understand the big picture understanding of what New York University is about. So before I read anything, I actually do what most people don't click on, which is the map. If you click on the map, what you will find immediately is, where is this place? And a lot of people, when they think of a school, they immediately think of rankings. But actually, in my opinion, if you're going to spend 4, maybe 5 years of your life somewhere, you better know where you're going to be. And I like to get a nice little close-up view in terms of where I am. And if you can typically tell by how busy an area is, by how many spider webs or yellow lines intersect, that means it's a pretty busy area. But if you really kind of understand where it is, and if you know anything about New York geography, this is in the middle of Manhattan. This is actually downtown, in the middle of everything. As you can see, Little Italy, you have East Village, and pretty much a whole bunch of cool stuff going on here. It's downtown New York. And I then zoom out a little bit. You can see that the spider webs get really, really thick here. It means you're just in the middle of the city, right? And so the first thing I think about is, okay, what kind of school environment is this? Is this an urban environment, suburban, or rural? And clearly, New York University is a very urban school. In addition to that, I start also thinking about factors that most other people don't think about at this stage, which is, well, what's kind of in New York and what's around it? And why that's really important to understand is, well, if you're going to go to school here, chances are the first internships or your job opportunities and even your networks are going to be very much involved with the industries that surround and that are inside New York. When a lot of people think of downtown New York, they think of Wall Street. And as you can imagine, finance is a very big thing. Obviously New York's Stern School of Business is a very, very popular one. But there's also just a ton of startup activity and other industries that are happening here. It's very similar to San Francisco. But it's important to understand, again, proximity to industry. What exactly is happening in and around New York, right? So business is, if that's something you're looking to get into, this would be a perfect place to get involved. Then I zoom out a little bit more. And what you'll find is, where now I want you to ask yourself the question of, where am I relative to other things in the United States, in that region, right? And if you go out far enough, you'll find out that, well, what's next to you? Well, what's next to you is pretty much the Atlantic Northeast United States, right? You have access to not just New York, but also all the other cities and states around it, like Boston, Massachusetts. You have Connecticut, and you also have Canada right up north, and you're just about an hour and a half flight away from Michigan as well, and the Great Lakes here. So why this is important to understand is, now that you understand a small picture of where you are, a mid picture of where you are, you can also see, kind of zoom out and see, well, where am I relative to everything geographically, right? A lot of people don't know that there's actually a train you could take straight to Boston, which is kind of cool. And that's not something you could say you can do, say, from Ohio or Indiana, right? And so that accessibility along the East Coast, major cities, again, so you can see the spider webs and the red roads now, you can kind of see what access that grants you from going to school like NYU. And then having access to the Great Lakes as well as Canada up north might also be a big plus for you. Last thing here is, if you go out one more level, you'll notice that being on the East Coast, you actually have easier access to Europe. It's pretty much a shorter flight, and what's interesting about that too is you'll have a lot of people from Europe going and living to places like New York, and so your exposure to people and the kind of cultures that you'll be exposed to are much different from, say, if you come from California, which is obviously closer in proximity to Asia, India, and other places on that front. So naturally the demographics will differ, and all of this plays a pretty important role in your experience in college. So after you've kind of looked at a map in a very analytical way, you can go ahead and go back to US News and observe some critical quantifying pieces here, like how big is this school from undergraduate perspective, right? Clearly NYU is a big school. It's got 25,000 students, so if you like large student bodies, that's definitely a go. It's also quite expensive retail price tag, and granted, you don't know what the end price will be because who knows how much aid they'll give you, but at the end of the day, the retail price tag is quite high. But actually, after immediately understanding, well, how big the school is, what kind of environment it's in, how much it costs, I immediately search up one word. So if you use a PC, you can use Control F. If you use a Mac, you can use Command F, and just type up the word major. And so this will help you jump used to a really useful part of the web page, which one tells you what the student to faculty ratio is, and typically I tell my students that anything around 15 to 1 is pretty good. So 10 to 1 here is very good. And a graduation rate of 80% or higher is pretty much gold standard. The national average for a four-year graduation is actually closer to 50%. So what this means is basically students are graduating on time for the most part. They're getting the classes that they need, and they're also going to classes that have pretty small class sizes, which typically allow you stronger relationships with teachers and more discussion-based learning. But in addition to that, why I typed in Control F for major is you want to see what is NYU good at? And obviously, not surprisingly, you'll see business and management, marketing, but you also see the performing arts, the social sciences, and these are the most popular majors at NYU. This doesn't necessarily mean what they're necessarily, they're also good at. I'm sure they're good at many other things, but this is what they're known for, right? And so as a result, a lot of the students that you'll find there are studying these things. So that's, from a high level, you can go ahead and continue to read on, talk about student life, the gender distribution. You can read as far as you want. You'll notice that they're NCAA 3. But for the purposes of understanding NYU on a high level, this will be enough for you. So now that you understand where it is, you understand how big it is and what it's good at, the next tab I would recommend opening is one about the school specifically. So literally I would just Google in the name of the school, NYU. I actually already have the school's website open right here, so I'm just going to open it right there. Now, pay very close attention to what this school is about. All right, so what we're trying to do here is actually read between the lines and identify two or three main identifying factors for what sets New York University apart from, say, other schools. What is it really that it defines itself as? And you can pick up on those little cues by looking for kind of what they're talking about a lot and looking at what they're featuring on the homepage and whatnot. The first thing you'll see is they have this beautiful picture of the Brooklyn Bridge, actually, which it's located very close by. And this city sprawl of New York and Manhattan, and that's actually core to New York's identity. They believe that learning happens, probably I would say 20 or 30% in the classroom and 80% in the city that you actually live in. And so, this is very much in line with their slogan, which you'll see in a second, which is, in and of the city. They want to know that you as a student are comfortable, and not only comfortable, but thrive in and of the city, right? Because that's ultimately what the New York campus feels like, where there really is no defined walls or campus. It's really just, you can walk through to NYU and not even know you just walk through, one of the most prestigious schools in the United States. So what I like to go for is, after you kind of pick up on cues from the homepage, right, you can see what they're talking about. I like to actually go ahead and scroll over basically university or student life and see kind of what's going on here. And see what they're talking about. For instance, if you were to go ahead and click on university initiatives, let's go and click on that. Right, you'll see immediately what's going on here, and pay attention to the rhetoric. Right, first thing you see, it says New York University has grown into one of the nation's leading institutions of higher education, a dynamic and prominent research university that is in and of the city, with an academic presence that spans the globe, right? This sentence pretty much captures what NYU is about. They're about learning from your environment, especially your urban environment. They're about definitely being a very prominent research institution in the United States of America. And they're also about global exposure, right? There's a reason why NYU has numerous campuses around the globe, and they love to tout that. What they also, you'll probably also find here, is that a tremendous amount of students, a very high percentage relative to other universities in the U.S., NYU actually, a tremendous amount of their students go and take on study abroad programs. And so NYU, if there's basically three things that I would use to identify NYU as, it's definitely in and of the city, so very much an urban learning environment where students thrive outside the classroom and apply what they're learning. Number two, they're incredibly global and diverse. You'll probably see the word diversity or diverse show up dozens and dozens of times as you look through the website. And number three, they definitely pride themselves on pushing the envelope in research and understanding the world further. So again, you can spend about 5, maybe 10 minutes if you'd like on the overall school website. From the U.S. News part, it only really takes you about a minute or two if you really get good at it. So at this point, we're about 13 minutes into the video. You should have spent about, say, 7 or 8 minutes researching the school from a high level, as you saw in the U.S. News. You understand the size, the location, and also what they're good at in terms of major programs. Now that you understand a little bit of a medium-sized picture in terms of what life is like there, the last and final tab that you can open up is basically the major department that you're particularly interested in. And so for today's example, I'm just going to go ahead and say, maybe I'm interested in going to NYU for psychology. So I'm just going to go ahead and put NYU psychology into Google. And if I do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on the second tab. So applied psych, maybe that's what I want to do. And when you get here, a couple things I want you to pick up on. Again, reading between the lines, the first thing is, how beautiful is this website? While that might sound really superficial, it's a great indicator. Basically how nice a website looks is very much an indicator of how much the school is investing into this specific department. For instance, let me go ahead and show you, in contrast with NYU Steinhardt, the Department of Applied Psychology, with, say, NYU Stern, which a lot of people already know. It's the business school, right? So if I look up NYU Stern and open up that tab, wow, it's stunning, right? You have this beautiful, slideshow that transitions nicely with cool colored text and changing colors, and it's very dynamic. There's numerous different tabs here with a nice drop down. It's very dynamic and it's beautiful. The colors are very, very nice. And it's sophisticated, it's complex, right? Now go back, and I'm not trying to ding applied psychology, but there's definitely a world of difference in terms of how much NYU definitely poured into each of these these programs, and it's evident through their website. But that said, this actually is still not bad. I've seen some websites or some programs where it's just really hindering. So that's a good sign in terms of, it's a useful sign in terms of determining how much does this college or university actually care about the program that I'm about to study. Well, after you kind of pick up on that, read about kind of what their students are working on. If you can, you can find a lot of different areas for that. Basically, who's teaching it, what are they researching, a whole bunch of things you can basically pick at, basically so that you can understand what is it that you're about to go ahead and learn. What does this department focus on, right? And so let's go and take a quick look at that. But let's say, on the left side, you can see here that there's a Center for Counseling Community Well-Being, right? So clearly, applied psychology in the sense of community empowerment is one thing. There's an area of research, right? And let's go and take a look at what OPUS stands for. It's online publication undergraduate studies, and this seems like it's basically an area where you can exercise perhaps your writing and your experiences studying and applying psychology in the United States and abroad. So, but the most intriguing part of this part of the research, and the one that I am most excited about, is always the courses, right? A lot of people use this term of, okay, put your money where your mouth is. Well, when I look at programs, specifically major programs, I look at the course list as kind of the money. Like if this program is something that's really, something that's strong at this school, they should have plentiful courses of, all kinds of variety. And so thankfully, they already have a link here for courses, and you want to make sure you click on undergraduate courses. And if you do that, you'll find an entire drop-down of all the courses they offer in applied psychology, and it's quite cool. So from here, just go ahead and take some time to browse through them and see if you can pick or see if you can find anything that is of interest to you in terms of how you're trying to learn psychology. Maybe you're looking into abnormal psychology and, understanding all the aspects to that. They also have one here on, say, human learning. Maybe you're interested in that. Or perhaps parenting and culture. So there's a lot of different variety here, it seems like, from NYU. And so this is also useful, by the way, when you're applying for certain colleges or universities to know, is because if you can name, say, one or two specific courses in the department that you're applying for that you're really interested in, right, that will show that the reader that you've done your research and you know a lot more about the school than just the average student who's looking on U.S. News for rankings, right? So a lot of this is definitely very useful not only for your own knowledge, but definitely for your application and qualification as a candidate. Make sure you take notes through this entire process, when you go from big picture to medium-sized picture to little picture or smallest picture, right? But after you basically look at any university with those three lenses, you'll have a very firm understanding of what this school is about, how big is it, where it's located, how strong this program is, and whether this program even fits my interest and has the course variety for me. And I think I'll leave you guys with understanding that ultimately, your experience at any university is not going to be confined certainly by the program you go to, because you'll be taking classes from numerous different departments. But it will be largely dictated by where you are, as a result of that, what kind of people you meet, and also, generally speaking, how strong their program is in the area that they're looking to study in. So I hope that helps, guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me, dan@readyedgego.com. I'd be happy to answer specific questions. And obviously, if maybe you look through or research a university and you basically still don't know really what that school represents, I can tell you that either one, the school doesn't represent anything because some schools are like that, or number two, that maybe you just missed out on some of the cues that they're trying to communicate to you through their numerous parts of their website. So again, hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to seeing you soon.